Danni is a freelance writer and artist with a deep love for music. Well travelled and having experienced many different cultures throughout her life, Danni's musical preferences and listening habits seem to be reflected in her personality, lifestyle, and even in her profession as a writer. This is something that was discussed in our conversation, among other topics such as how her relationship and interactions with music have changed over time, along with some fantastic and insightful anecdotes that touch on how music can aid language learning, how it connects people across generations, cultures, and even time periods, and she mentioned some of her most memorable music-related experiences. There was also a profound story of realising how important singing was to her once it had gone, and when it had come back into her life later in a very fulfilling way. As a freelance writer running her own business, I really do appreciate Danni taking the time out for this chat, and please do check out her work via the links in the description, and I hope you enjoy and gain something from this interview. Hi Danni, can you hear me all right?
Yes, I can. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. You good?
All good. Work's going really good. Lots of writing. As always,
That's
listening to
good.
lots of music. No, I'm looking forward to this. I just read the images you sent me about the podcast. It's a really exciting idea. I hope I can meet what you're expecting with this.
I think the important thing with this is because music is such a universal thing, like I do genuinely feel that everyone has a story to tell, and everyone, whether it's musicians, writers, casual music fans, and listeners, like everyone has something to contribute to this. So, yeah, again, thank you so much. But I'll jump straight into it now and ask the first question. So, what comes to mind when you hear the words music and well-being together?
Ooh, so much. So that was actually I went to university for both writing and music.
Hmm.
And we actually had a whole program around music and wellness that I did not personally take, but it definitely gave me the idea of how we interact with music, whether it be you need it to focus and study or get work done, whether it's your time to sit down and calm down at the end of the day and listen to stuff. For me, it had always been like an escape to distract from what was going on in my life. But then um, I just started really connecting with stuff and I wander with the answers, so I'm making sure I'm staying on topic. But
Oh,
yeah, it was
please,
just kind of
please.
like the idea of connection. And I'm really big in like multicultural music and music in many different languages. So to me, the meaning transcends the words. It's the sound and that kind of colloquial idea that you get from the sound that can really support people, drive them on, help you in moments of sadness. It's just it transcends different cultures and languages. I think that answers that.
And I like that. It takes this naturally in the direction that I want to take it. That, like I just mentioned,
Okay.
music being such a universal thing, it is relevant to everyone everywhere. So, just following that up, can you pinpoint maybe when you became aware that it did transcend that? Like, was there a first example where you thought the language just didn't matter all of a sudden? It's just the sound itself.
I think that's a little difficult to pinpoint because I've been in choir since I was a really little kid, and luckily we were exposed to singing in many different languages, from Ukrainian, Japanese, Spanish, tons of Latin, of course, stuff
Wow.
like that. So I'd always been kind of exposed to that, and I was always listening to top 10 like the music charts all around the world, like top 10 international hits, top 10 from Spain, top 10 from, so that
Wow.
always was something I did. I think the meaning really hit me when I was in college though, because I got really visibly into the world of like K-pop and stuff. So that was the first time I was very loud about like what music I enjoyed and stuff like that. I was always listening to it, always dancing. And I think my parents back home were like, what are you doing? You don't know what it means. It's kind of, to them it was kind of silly, and they didn't really understand how the connection or not understanding something. And I think the way I tried to explain it was in my studies in opera, like we're singing in different languages, but you have to study the words, do that research, know what this character is actually saying, and then you express it in your emotions and the voice and everything. And but then they were like, well, I don't like opera, so it didn't like work. But
Yeah.
I think kind of having someone question why does this stuff mean so much to you did make that click for me that it does mean a lot. I think it's the closest I can get to be it being a
Yeah.
specific. That would have been in probably like anywhere from like probably 2016, 2017.
Okay.
Yeah.
Was that like kind of late teen years, would you say?
Yeah, that was college. So I was about, I would say 19 or 20. And
Mm.
we had a bunch of international students as well. So they would come over and share music and be like, oh, I already know that, and stuff like that.
You kind of alluded to it in a way already, but second question would be, what does music mean to you, or how would you describe your relationship with music?
I see it as another way to express yourself as well as to share stories. Yeah, like the communication of what a character or story is in a different language. Music can help you kind of bridge that gap and communicate to others in different languages. Um, but yeah, I really see it as a piece of communication.
And with your music library, again, going back to how you was exposed to a lot of different music from quite an early age as well. Do you think that your music library or your taste says anything about you in terms of perhaps your identity or just you as a person, your personality? Do you feel like your library maybe reflects that in some way?
Yeah, I would say so. I think, and I might keep making this comparison. I chose to be a writer because I want to do absolutely everything. And that job allows me to do that because every project, every story I do has a different topic, a different world to explore. My music tastes are very much like that. They're everywhere, whether it be a different language or culture, or, my playlist goes from old 90s country music to orchestral works or movie soundtracks to Broadway to K-pop to you just keep going. Like it's just all these very, very different things. And I think it just represents I love things that generate emotion and feeling and a new story I've never heard of or give me a new feeling that I might not have captured yet. So
Yeah.
just kind of the way it lets you peek into different realities. So yeah, it represents my many, many varied tastes.
And I guess the more you explore, the more you're exposed to different cultures and eras and different things like that. And
Yeah, I think
do you have any particular like, music listening habits in terms of do you have any set routines or do you have like a certain place or like in the same way how people might have a reading corner or something like that? Do you have anything in particular or
yeah, I used to be the listen to music 24/7. I think that was kind of more of a coping mechanism of like that was my escapism. But nowadays I don't listen as much in my daily life. It is more if I'm in the car, I always have something on. But my big thing is music when not working on like an inspired piece and really focus. My daily routine is more when I'm up and doing chores or cooking and cleaning, like I'll have the radio on or have like my computer. I'm sorry, I don't really have radios anymore. My computer playing and I'll just have like YouTube playlists going or I'm Spotify on and I just play the music as loud as I can without bothering the neighbors and just cook and enjoy myself. And it's kind of like my release at the end of the day. It's a very, I'm not thinking about anything beyond the lyrics, just enjoying the
Mhm.
moment. In those moments, I've been really obsessed with ABBA this year. I don't know why. That's just such a good feeling. A lot of like classic rock things I would hear as like my parents would play as a kid. I'll
Mhm.
listen to in those moments. But yeah, I kind of like that because then when I'm listening 24/7, I think it just becomes I wasn't as open to it anymore. It was just sound in the background. But now that I have like a designated time in my schedule that I listen to stuff, it's really nice.
So it sounds like you kind of grew to have a more conscious interaction with music in a
Yeah.
way. And I think a lot of people have very similar connotations with ABBA, but if you were to pick out like a few words, for example, because that was the first one that came to your mind,
Like lyrics in a song or like just my thoughts on them.
just in terms of like what it makes you feel or what you associate with it generally.
Yeah, I think a lot of people could say this, but just the idea of like being free in that moment, like whether you're listening to Dancing Queen or my favorite is oh man, Super Trooper. It just reminds me like a bunch of people getting together and enjoying the moment. So like, cause like my boyfriend works really late. So usually I'm at home alone cooking dinner, but like it makes me feel like the room is full of people. And it just brings like this kind of community feeling. Like it's just really enjoyable. I think the kind of that old fashioned sound where you have multiple singers and multiple different backup singers, like this
Mm.
cloud of voices happening, I think just creates that enjoyment for me.
It almost like brings the
Yeah.
atmosphere into your house, doesn't it? I think
Yeah.
I've had quite a similar thing with the Beatles recently. For some strange reason, Beatlemania has just hit me at this point. I've been listening to it so much, but yeah,
That's
that thing of just the multiple voices and the also in terms of like sonically, when I think of ABBA and Beatles and things like that, is whatever it is about it, the chords and the notes and things, they just elicit very positive emotions.
absolutely. And yeah, the Beatles is a perfect example for that.
And also, at any point in your life, or if there's been multiple moments, can you think of any moments where music has had a particularly profound impact on you, whether you realized it in the moment or retrospectively looking back, it could have changed you in some way or opened your eyes to something?
Yeah, I think there was the strongest moment was actually where I had to let music go. That makes sense. I was a senior in college, so our 4-year university programs,
Mm,
and I actually had to step down from the music department to focus on my writing work, but it was a moment where it was kind of defining. We had a professor kind of go rogue and kind of single-handedly destroy the program. So it was kind of like this whole like
wow.
drama happening, and my senior 2-hour long opera recital was on the line. And it's not only a test of like this, of how much energy you can sustain on the stage, how you can present yourself, singing two full arias and like a bunch of different smaller pieces. It was really a testament to everything I had learned those 4 years. And but I knew if I went forward with it, because it was very demanding on my time and not in a beneficial way because of the professor going absolutely nuts.
Yeah.
But I had to sit there and think, okay, what is actually really important to me? Music's always been a part of my life. It's always helped me, but at that moment it was holding me back. I was getting not so great grades in my writing classes, and it's
Mm,
like my senior year. I should have been doing great. And so I had to kind of step back and then refocus on what was going to help me later in my life. Um, yeah, I just think that's a moment that stands out to me. It's actually a pretty picturesque one. I remember my college was in the middle of nowhere in a very hilly, forested kind of area. I was out in the middle of a field in the snow, just standing there thinking about this. I think that's where I made my decision. I walked all the way back to campus and then kind of notified who I needed to. But yeah, but I think that's what let music become more casual for me. I think after
okay.
stepping down for that moment. That's what comes to mind when you ask that.
But it does definitely sound like, and I don't even think it's exaggeration to say this, but quite a life-changing
Yeah.
moment and period that you went through. Like you said, it had been such a constant in your life for so long.
Yeah, it was interesting because like I definitely thought music and writing would always be hand in hand forever. Because a big connection there was that in studying music, it taught me how to study, how to really perfect things. And when you're learning a piece of music, I did piano as well. So you'd have to play it like 60 times to get it perfect. Or that taught me how to edit my papers. That taught me how to speak in public and perform and read. And the skills were so incredibly transferable. So in the end, it did help me a lot.
Mm.
Um, but like I only just got back into singing this year. I didn't sing after graduation. I went and taught music briefly at a summer camp in Poland. And then when that was done, the next 3, 4 years, from like 2019 until now, I stopped singing completely. I think it was just like, oh, I can't do it anymore. But then I just found a community choir where I recently moved, and they're incredible, and I'm just full swing back into it.
Oh wow. Well, I'm
Came
glad
back
to
into
hear.
it. Yeah.
And have you ever witnessed it on somebody else, like whether it's an emotional response or just something that has really influenced something in their life in a big way? Have you ever seen that?
Many times, whether it be performers I worked with or classmates, watching their personal recitals one-on-one, I would see them go from practicing and learning pieces to performing on stage and just making me cry, making the audience, just to see people put all their energy out on the stage was always an incredible thing. I always felt very honored to watch. A more specific moment, when I was teaching in Poland, I was a teaching assistant for music, and we were using it as a tool to help learn English. And the kids would be struggling, to communicate with us. They were brilliant. They were like elementary age, no, early middle school age, I would say. And they would struggle to communicate, but as we started singing together, it just opened up, and then communication became easier, talking became easier, and just seeing kind of that help unlock the differences in our languages and communication was just incredible. And then when that camp ended after a month, like everyone crying, like singing farewells. A lot of, yeah, music was a part of all of our meals there. I don't know if that's like a Polish thing, but like there were a lot of like cookouts and celebrations and everyone singing, I think after the fact, I went to a party with a completely different group of people, and everyone was like performing out in the garden. It was like poetry and singing and
Wow.
opera singers, just in a normal neighborhood garden party. And so just to see how music was used to give each other enjoyment and like a moment to make a moment special was just really, really cool.
I like that. That's amazing. And
Yeah.
just the connectedness that you can get through music, and especially when there were two languages or cultures that are, they can be so different. And it must have been really exhilarating to be part of that as well in that kind of atmosphere, I can imagine.
Oh yeah. And the way they knew all those lyrics, like we sang something by Imagine Dragons, and the kids just rushed through. They knew everything. And I was like, okay, do y'all even know what all that means in English? Because like you are incredible. And they're like, kind of. Then we went over it and then boom, they knew it all. Then
Oh,
their singing
wow.
was even better. It was just so cool. Yeah.
As a listener and fan of music yourself, can you think of, or have you ever thought of any ways where music could be used to help regulate or enhance well-being in any ways?
Yeah, I think it's a good tool for that because I think it serves as an example of if you don't know how to express your feelings, like luckily nowadays is a bigger movement of talk to people, get help,
Mm.
talk to a therapist, do stuff like that. And I think if you can't come up with the words, let's say you're in a situation and you're trying to express it or trying to figure out what your thoughts are, I think we're very fortunate that there are so many artists out there bearing their souls to us,
Mm.
to where if I can't describe something or say how I'm feeling, there's probably a song out there that can do it for me. And then that can help unlock communication with yourself, with the person helping you. Um, I just think it gives us more, I would say, examples of life. Does that make sense?
Yeah,
Seeing how
definitely.
someone handles something and communicates it in a song can be a lesson learned to you as well. So I think that's really useful.
That brings me on to the idea of playlists as well, because obviously on Spotify and YouTube and things there'll be, and it kind of makes me laugh. There's always these like workout playlists or playlists to relax and playlists to drive, but it seems it's leaning more towards algorithms and what's kind of put to you rather than people seeking stuff out. Unfortunately, it seems like a lot of people kind of just make do with whatever is put in front of them in a way, and I feel like that really takes away from the individual
Mhm.
on the receiving end of it because there's no kind of uniform way of what works and what doesn't. And yeah, going back to the playlist, was it the Evil Villains playlist that you said you had curated?
Yeah. I think I've seen a lot of writers online mention fantasy playlists, background music, evil villain. And I was like, I gotta give it a try. And it was fun. I'm picky. I usually like the first 20 minutes of the playlist, and then I feel like it kind of goes off topic or repeats itself, honestly. And that you brought up the Spotify playlist, I feel like that's the same thing. I'll listen to those just to try to find more new music. And let's say it's a workout playlist and it gives me a slow ballad. I'm like, what are you doing? Like, I don't need cool down time. I'm trying to run or do something. But yeah, I love trying out themed playlists because when you find a good one, it's incredible. And just luckily for me, like there was always so much music from so many different artists and time periods from my family and friends and what I was into that I can sit down and be like, okay, what do I want to listen to? And I can make like a huge playlist, no problem at all. But like, um, I don't know. It's just really cool.
I think
That's
that it's something that I really want to just keep encouraging because I feel like the more we do, the more we consciously engage with it, the more we can get out of it. And I think you gave some really perfect examples there of that.
now, could I
Um,
ask, do you see something or when you're listening to music? Because my professor was always said some people just listen to music and it's just feeling and just the sound. Some people get images and colors in their mind, or you're literally thinking and imagining scenes. But what is your experience with that? Because I think that does connect with it when someone's looking for a theme playlist. Like when I'm writing, I want
mm,
something that matches what I'm writing so I could see these scenes in my head. The
yeah.
music gives me inspirations. So I obviously see images and like things play out.
Actually, a lot of the times I definitely do, but it really does depend on one, the kind of music that is on and also what mood I'm in. Whereas, because like when we're cleaning up and
Yeah.
things, we have them things that's just
Mhm.
not so much background noise, but just part of the atmosphere. But then there's certain times where I'll have to actually just send you this the album that I'm going to mention. It's an old hip hop album from the 90s, and there's something about it just it makes me think about either things in space or things underwater, and I always listen to that when I'm cleaning my fish tank. For some reason it just really goes well with that. And what I used to do with my two nieces, I used to put the album on and say, okay, close your eyes, and then at the end of it, I'm going to ask you, what you were seeing in your mind. And they used to come out with the most interesting ideas. And funnily enough, one of them, when she was about 7 years old, she did say, I feel like I'm on a different planet listening to this. And then the older one, she actually mentioned something about water as well. So it was the two things that I associated with it. They both separately kind of alluded to the same thing. But I definitely do have a lot of imagery kind of evoked in a lot of the music that I listen to. Listen to the Beatles, it almost felt like I could imagine what it was like in the 60s, for example, or listen to 90s hip hop. Lyrically, there's a lot of storytelling in it, and they create very vivid imagery. There are times where you just picture a certain type of atmosphere. Like I've almost felt like I've been in a lot of these cities before just because of how vividly they tell these stories. And even the sounds and the way they, that particular era, early 90s, there was a lot of kind of almost gritty, grimy, distorted sounds in the music. But that was because they wanted to convey the context that they were in and where they came from. And it just added to the lyrics in a way. It was all, just a multifaceted storytelling kind of medium. So yeah, I would say I do get a lot of imagery from the music I listen to.
That's so cool.
Something that we've already kind of alluded to a few times in this interview is music has always been it's a universal constant in the human story. Why do you think this could be? Like, why do you think we always seem to consciously make sure that music is around us and is part of our lives in some way?
This reminds me of something very specific a history professor once told me. If you think about kind of the celebration of music or how celebrations in music are very connected, it makes me think of like how music is very a part, like I might not be religious myself, but it's very part of religion. And like, on Sundays people go sing in their choirs, or I think back to like Middle Ages, like peasants, like the days off, people playing music, and like, us having stories and records telling us about stuff like that happening, how music was a way to calm down and connect, or no matter what class you were a part of. And just like examples like that is kind of what it makes me think of, how it's, goes down to the roots of relaxing and connecting with your community and expressing yourself, and, to bring it up again, but like Poland, I saw that with like, dinner time was time to, or second dinner, oh my goodness, second dinner, was time to break out the accordion, guitars, it just, instead of talking, people are singing and sharing memories through song. And I think even if there wasn't language involved and it is just the sound of the instruments, it's still telling a story, and it's always been a way to express yourself. So I just think it's been inextricably linked, because if you think about it, we're not only like living our lives, we're trying to understand them, how to express this human experience that everyone is going through. And I just think that's one of the many tools we've had, just like art and drawing and dance and moving your body has always been a part of how
Yeah.
we communicate. Yeah.
Yeah, it's just another aspect of the human story. I really like that. The music that every bit of music that we have listened to, whether we remember it or not, it kind of forms the soundtrack to our lives. And I've really done it myself a lot in these last kind of 3 or 4 years, where I've really delved into all the different types of music that I've listened to and phases that I've been through in all different parts of my life. And then it's almost like a tapestry of your own story. And you actually can understand yourself so much by looking at those and really picking it apart. And yeah, like you said, it's something that's so deep rooted, so inextricably linked with just like who and what we are. You kind of almost can't separate it.
Oh yeah. And just in response to the soundtrack to your life, there's one song, and I'm gonna send this song to you, but one song in particular that just like struck me so hard when I was a teenager was True Love by Ivor. I'm not pronouncing her name right, but she's an artist from the Faroe Islands outside of Denmark, and it's just incredible and beautiful. And it's about a woman falling in love with death, because they have a story where death would come, kind of like Grim Reaper-esque, come and take people and help them across wherever they're going, I guess, after passing away. And she falls in love with him and does everything to try to get to him. And she eventually takes her own life to be with him, but he passes the mantle of being the Grim Reaper onto the next person to become human and fall in love with her, and they just miss each other. And so it's this
Wow.
heartbreaking, beautiful story. And that's something every few years I go out of my way to sit down and listen to,
Mm.
because just the strong emotions it stirs up. And I think because the song is about a very big choice. So whether that has no relation to anything I'm dealing with or anything going on in my life, it's a good reflection point just to sit down and listen to. And another really important one, I think you've definitely seen me mention this over the years on DeviantArt. Lindsay Sterling is my number one artist ever. I saw her stuff when she first started on YouTube. I saw her when she was on American Got Talent, like
Oh,
so
wow.
far back. And I think one of the last 2 times we were chatting online, in 2019, I went and saw her in Paris when I was like traipsing through
Yeah,
Europe.
I remember.
Like,
I do actually remember that.
yeah, yeah. And there was a moment when she was on stage and she shouted out one of her first concerts ever that happened to be in Cleveland, Ohio, that I had seen like
Oh man.
8 years prior to that. And it was just like an amazing moment because I like raised my hands and yelled. And one other person in the crowd was also from Cleveland, Ohio. So she was like, oh my goodness, what are you doing here? So it's just really cool. Yeah. So
Wow, that
those
is
those two
amazing.
artists are good reflections for me. Yeah.
I think it's another example of that transcending even just lyrics and language. It just takes it to a whole different dimension in a way. That's so cool. But yeah,
Yeah,
definitely send me the song and any other songs that you want to share. I'll definitely
definitely.
do the same. But yeah, we'll wrap that up and thank you again so much for this. And yeah, I'll keep you
Awesome.
updated for sure.
Thank you. No, I'm so excited to see it and I'm cheering you on. So definitely let me know.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, thank
Okay, take
you.
care. I'll speak to you soon.
You
Bye.
too. Bye-bye.